Hello guys, how's it going? Welcome. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the art class. All right, just getting things set up here. It's cool. All right, come on board. We're just waiting for some more people. Today we're going to be drawing the Highland cow. So this is a good chance. We're going to start at 3:30. So it's a good chance to get your materials all ready that you're going to need. So I'm going to be using 3 different pencils today for the drawing. One of the main ones that's really important is the 6B pencil. That's a nice soft pencil, which is great for doing shading and tone. I'm also going to be using a 3B and a 2B. And the 2B pencil in particular, I've got it really nice and sharp, which is going to be awesome for those little details that we're going to be doing. So I've got an eraser as well. So if you've got a rubber, that would be really helpful for doing some of the details on there. And I like to use a craft knife when I'm sharpening my pencils. Maybe for some of you little kiddies, it might not be the safest. So you can, get your parents to help you with that one. But you can use a pencil sharpener or whatever you like. I'm also going to be drawing on some paper, nice sketching paper today, but really any kind of paper that you want to draw on is totally fine. So the other one that might be useful is to have the picture of the Highland cow that we're going to be drawing today. I'm going to try and show that in the live when I flip the camera down to the paper. But it might be easier for you to be able to actually see that while you're drawing, because there's been lots of looking back and kind of referencing the picture. So if you can print it out quickly, if you can print it, even if it's black and white, that's totally fine. Otherwise, you could have another device or something like a laptop or something like that, and have that there to be able to refer to and look at. All right, cool. All right, lots of people jumping on. This is going to be great. Hey, everyone. I'm not sure if I will be able to answer too many of your questions, but that's okay. Feel free to fire them through if you have a particular question. And then, so we're just waiting a couple more minutes. So maybe in the meantime, do you want to tell me sort of where you're watching, where you're from? Hope your lockdowns are all going okay and everyone's sort of, getting a bit creative and stuff. So let me know where you're from, guys. All right. Hey, guys. Hey, thanks for joining. Catherine wants a shout out. Hey, Catherine. All right. That's cool. Just about 3:30. Cool. So the plan for today, how it's going to go, because I realize that we're going to have different age groups wanting to do the drawing. So for you younger guys, I'm going to start off the drawing in quite a basic way, just really starting off really simple so that you can follow along and do the drawing. And then as we progress further on, we'll get more into the sort of detailed level stuff. And so, I guess if you're finding it's getting a little bit hard for you, then that's fine. You can follow along if you can. Otherwise, you can drop off at that point. But hope you guys enjoy the class today. And I know I'm going to enjoy teaching you some stuff. All right. Cool. So let me just do a quick introduction. My name's Joe McMenamin. I'm an artist based in Fielding in the Manawatu, and I used to be a high school art teacher down in Wellington. So lots of experience teaching. I run the art studio and gallery in Fielding where I teach after school kids classes. And obviously at the moment we can't meet because of COVID. So this was an idea basically for you guys to be able to see an art class and be involved, but do it from your own house. So that's the plan. All right, I'm going to flip you around here if I can. There we go. All right, just bear with for a minute while I set this up. Alrighty, cool guys. All right, so I hope you've got all your gear kind of ready to go. All right, so this is our lovely highland cow that we're going to be drawing today. This guy here. By the way, this image is from Google, but it is a Creative Commons license, so anyone can use this image. There's no like copyright or anything on it. Cool. So here's all the gear that I've got here. I've got my pencils, my eraser, and my lovely crafty knife. Kids, be safe if you're using this at home. Yeah, we're gonna just jump straight into it. All right, cool. So first thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to start off with the 3B. So I'm going to drop all my other pencils off the side. The first thing we're going to be doing, guys, is we are going to be lightly sketching in the basic shapes. So the plan with this is to get the proportions on our page. So kind of the layout, if you will, how the image is on here onto our picture. All right, so we're going to start off nice and simply, and we're going to start off with the head, and we're going to work on this. So we've got a nice big, hang on, I'll try and get this all in the frame. Nice big wide circle. Now you want to do this nice and lightly, because we're going to be rubbing out a lot of these lines later on, okay? So we've got the head. Now I like to sort of put in these weird little ear shapes here. And then we've got a really important part here. We've got the snout. So really like super basic shapes. This is just to kind of like place everything in the image to get it really, to get started, all right? Now, with the horns, we're just gonna kind of get the line so it's quite a straight line here, and then it curves up like that. And that one sort of curves up to a point around here. Nice. Hopefully you guys can do that. All right, I think everyone can see all right. That's good. Okay, so same with this side. Now, it's a good idea here because we want the horns to be roughly the same size, right? So it's a good idea to use your pencil to actually give you the length. So I did a line in the middle of the head, and I've gone, okay, it's that far. So that means the other horn's going to come out about that far there. All right, so there, it's roughly the same height too, so it's about there. Cool. And so like that. Yeah, it's funny, eh? One of the things that you do is your brain starts to kind of simplify the image. And so when I first looked at these, I was like, oh yeah, they're just curved, but actually they're not. They're quite flat along the bottom, along this area here, and then they curve up past that. All right, so you can see I've done like quite a few lines in there, and what I can do is just, if you draw too many, and same with the guides, you can just kind of rub them out as you go along. That's why it's cool to have a little rubber here. All right, now, this is looking a bit silly at the moment, but it'll get better, trust me. Now, in the background, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to like draw the background, but we don't want it to distract from the main thing, which is the highland cow, okay? So we want to kind of get a little bit of a landscape here. Got a line going up here, really lightly sketching. Now, it's sort of, there's like a road or something that dips down here. It's cool. And then we've got this sort of range here, sort of a couple of hills, and then up like this. All right, and it looks like there's some kind of mountains here, but I'm just gonna say that's sky because that's a bit easier. And we've got some little grass and stuff here, but later on we'll get into doing like the really fine details, but I don't want to get sort of bogged down with all of that. Cool. So what else have we got in here? Got our road, got kind of our body. that looks good. I'm pretty happy with how that's starting out, actually. All right, cool. So we've done number 1, which was to lightly sketch in the basic shapes. All right, step number 2. Now we have to feel in the drawing. Now, it's a bit of a weird term, but feeling in is where you sort of really lightly sketch and try and improve on like the basic shapes that we've got here, okay? So let's start off with the ear over here. You feel by just kind of like doing some little lines, still quite light, like so. And what I do at this point is I get my rubber and I just sort of rub out some of those guidelines that maybe aren't helpful at this point. So like those circles for the ears. All right, feeling in. We actually did quite a good job in the beginning of the horns, so they're pretty good actually. I think we'll leave them for now. Okay, so we've got the other ear coming in down around here. Man, these guys are hairy, aren't they? All right, cool. Big hairs coming down, and then it looks like a kind of teenager fringe or something coming down here. We'll come back to that later on. All right, that's cool. Now, on every picture that you draw, there's going to be like a focus point or a focal point. And for me, when I look at this one, it's the snout. You know, that's where you kind of, your eyes like drawn into the middle of this piece. And so this is going to be really important to try and get this bit right. All right, so let's do that now. All right, so we're looking at this. I think I may have drawn that circle a little high, so I'll just bring it down a tad. That's fine. This is a good chance to like just check where everything is. All right, now we've got a couple of different lines. We've got a curve coming in like this. We've got a curve coming in like this. Those are the nostrils, eh? All right. Hopefully you guys are keeping up, you're following along, enjoying it so far. Okay, so we've got this kind of shape here, and then we've got this nice like kind of frown. It's like a single line under there, isn't it? Almost like he's disappointed or something. And then we've got some cute little bits of grass. We probably won't worry about that too much. We can add that later on with the details. All right, now, since drawing that, I can tell that there's not enough space in here. So what I got to do is, at this point, you've got to kind of try and get it right, okay? Now, if you're being quite fussy like me, you can redraw that. If you like how you did it first time, then that's totally fine as well. Now, it looks like there's kind of like some rays coming out from there, like all the fur, or the hair, sorry, is coming out from the nose, like that. And then there's a sort of like ring up here, like a mustache or something. All right. Alrighty, cool. And that's looking good for a start. And then we're gonna carry on down the head. Sort of some more furry bits coming down underneath here. Cool. All right, and this guy here. And let's look a little bit more on this side. Hopefully you guys can still see that. So this is still the feeling in stage. We're just, or you might call this the sketching stage. So we're just, you know, like making it a bit more sort of real. So instead of doing a line across like that, now we're just going to kind of go, okay, cool, there's a bump, and then another bump, and some furry bits, hairy. Do these cows have fur or hair? I don't know. Maybe someone can comment and tell me. All right. And then like some nice wavy bits going in like this. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks good. Okay. Yep, probably went a little bit too high up there. All right, cool. So at this point you can sort of start to rub out any extra lines and things. Okay. All right, so cool. All right, so let's go over what we've done so far. Cool? So the first part of the drawing was to just start off with the real basic shapes. And it helps to like get the proportions right, the size of the head, the kind of position of all the different features, all right? And then the next stage, so we did that one at the beginning. The second point is to fill in the drawing, all right? And to kind of break that down, I guess, a little bit more, what I'm doing is I'm looking at a bit and then I'm drawing it. So if you could see my head, it's like kind of going back and forth between looking at the reference photo and then drawing it onto the picture. So, because what I'm aiming to try and make it as close to the reference as I can. All right. Now it's not going to be exactly like, but you know, I want to try and aim for it to be as close as possible. And so yeah, that kind of involves like working around each part and just trying to look back and forth and see, okay, how does that bit work with that bit? Now, just to let people kind of get a chance to catch up to, you know, to this place, there's a few little tricks, but one of the little tricks you can do is to just check where things line up against other things. So we did that with the horns at the beginning. Okay, we kind of work out, yep, they're basically the same height and they're about the same, you know, distance apart. But if we look here, we can kind of go, if we lay the pencil down, we can see, oh, this ear is actually higher than this ear. Have I done that in my drawing? Oh yeah, I have. Okay, cool. So it might need to go a little bit higher there. So sometimes at this stage, it's actually good to like just kind of stop and just compare some of the parts of the drawing with parts of the reference photo with your drawing. And just check and see if it's kind of looking right. Now, when I look at this, actually, just now that I've done that, if I look at the snout, which is going to be kind of the most important part, I think I've probably done these a little bit too far apart, haven't I? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring them in a little bit. Cool. Yeah, that's probably a bit better, eh? And then we can bring the moustache down here a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, we'll bring that one in a bit. There we go. I think that looks cool. All right. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of at that stage where you've just sketched it. You've got like a line drawing, a line sketch, and it doesn't look like perfect, but just, you know, it's sketched in there. And hopefully you're ready to move on to the next stage. All right, so what we're going to do at this point, if you've got a 6B pencil, we're going to flip over to the 6B. So if you don't have a 6B, you can do this step with any pencil, like an HB or even a 2B or anything. But it's just that, yeah, this is probably a better tool for the job. Just do a real quick thing about pencils. So the B stands for black, and that means the softer the letters. So the higher the B number, the softer the letters, that means the more of it comes off when you draw. So it appears darker, basically. And you'll probably know if you've got like an HB, it stays sharp for longer. So yeah, that's good for certain parts of the drawing as well. Okay, so the next stage, number 3, we're going to add some tone in to make the drawing look 3D. All right. Now, before we even start on the cow, what we're going to do is we're going to start in the background. All right, and remember what I said earlier about we want the background to be like not too distracting. We want it to be kind of softer and like blended and things. And if you look at the reference, you can see that the horns up here are quite light. So we want the background to be a bit darker than them, so it sort of makes the horns stand out. So the best way to do this is to just use your pencil really kind of quite low and just start adding in some tone, all right? Try not to create lines if you can help it. Adding in some shading. And what I do is I like to hold my pencil in one position and it gets a nice smooth bit along the bottom. And that smooth bit's really good. Now, if you want to, if you've got like a piece of scrap paper or something, or on the back, you can just like have a wee scribble and that will create that nice kind of flat, smooth bit on there, which is really cool for getting a really good kind of smooth tone. Okay, but however you do it, doesn't matter. Just start adding in some tone in the background. All right. You guys all good? You keeping up? Okay. Now, one of my favorite things to do when sketching is to give it a good smudgy. Okay, now you can use different things to smudge, but I like to use your finger because it's got sort of natural oils in the skin and it helps to kind of just pick it up and smudge it. So the way to do that is just to rub your finger over the top. Now you don't want to kind of overdo this because it does make it look sort of misty and smudgy, but it is good for the background. Cool? So yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. So just work your way around that, kind of adding a bit more tone. Now I'm trying to keep the picture in the frame, but like if I'm drawing normally, I'll probably like turn it sideways like this and maybe even turn it upside down, just whatever kind of direction it is to make it easier to get to. But for the video here, I'm trying to keep it pretty much straight for you. All right. All right, I'm not going to do that whole area background there. I get a little bit bored doing backgrounds, to be honest, but it's all right. You can always spend more time on that later on if you want to. And what I'm going to do here is just these hills here again a little bit darker. So to create a darker tone, you know what you do? Press harder. That's right. I'm sure you guys all got that. So you just press a little bit harder. Oh, whoops, got the edge of the paper there. Oh, that's something in the distance. Cool. We don't want these hills to be too dark because we don't want them to stand out. All right, cool guys. Hey, I'm super impressed that so many of you guys are still here with me drawing. This is cool. Well done, you're doing really well. I can't see what you're doing, but I'm sure you are doing really well. All right, so still working on the hills. Give them a nice smudge. Probably just ignore the sky for now. Leave that like that. Now, it doesn't matter too much if you go onto the horn because we're going to be rubbing out to create a bit of a lighter patch on that. Yeah, cool. All right, so we'll leave that there for now in the background. Now, if you haven't finished the background, that's okay. You can come back to it later on. Sorry if it's a little bit of a loud noise. There's a train going past my house right now. All right. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a wee look at our picture and we're going to see like where are the different areas of tone on the actual cow. All right. So obviously probably the darkest tones are in the nostrils. and then underneath these areas here. So I'm sure there's some eyes under there, but you can't see the eyes. So it's going to be darker under here, and it's kind of darker under the chin, and then also the bottom of the horns. All right. So actually, let's work on the horns now, because the horns we know are like rounded. They're like a cylinder, right? So that means that they're going to be shaded darker on the bottom and lighter on the top, because the light is coming from the sky. It's amazing. So what we're going to do is we are going to tone these horns like this. So we're going to make it darker on the bottom and blend it up. Now the way to do that, I did that pretty fast, but I'll show you on here. You start off like this, and you press lighter and lighter and lighter as you go up. And that creates tonal graduation from dark to light. Okay? So we're going to work our way around here, making it darker on the bottom, lighter on the top. Now, what happens here, at the end of the horn, it's actually got some weird darkness on the horn part. So we're going to have to add that in, but it's not on the whole thing. It's only on the end of the horn. Maybe because it, like, you know, scrapes against trees or things like that. I don't really know what highland cows do with their horns, but they're dirty on the end. Okay. All right, and we're leaving it pretty much light on here. We can do a little bit of smudging, but we don't want to blend it in with the background too much. All right, cool. Now what you can do, what we're going to do eventually, but you can do it now if you want, is get your eraser, and you're going to pick up on this really nice highlight in here. Okay, so rub it out. And hopefully what it will do is, just like that, it's going to pop out from the background. So it's like kind of darker in the background and the horn is lighter. Yeah? Now we're going to add in some of the texture and the little marks and details later on. But for now, we're just going to do it like that. So let's work on the other horn. Darker on the bottom, lighter on the top. Cool. Now it gets quite dark just in here where it goes behind the ear. All right, good. Cool, let's do a little rubbing out trick on here. So what happens is, because we smudged it before, we would have got a little bit of grey onto the horns. And now that white, that rubber just gets it nice and popping. All right, good work, team. Okay, so now we're going to work our way down the head, and we're going to add in some tone. Now what you have to do is look past these really nice highlights that are happening on the hair at the top, okay? So you kind of have to look past at the kind of mid-tones or the darker tones underneath. So let's do that. Let's work our way through, because we're going to be using the rubber to draw some of those highlights on pretty soon. Okay, so you can see back in this area it's actually quite dark. You guys all good with this? You following along? Just let me know if I need to slow down a bit, or if I need to explain something else. Okay. So we're kind of, I think we're going to have like a kind of middle amount of grey just happening up in here. So get some shading up on the head. try and, when you're drawing, always try and do your pencil lines in the same rough direction as the texture. So see how on the head you've got this, you know, the fringe coming down, and same with around the snout. You notice how when I was shading here, it's kind of bringing it around like that. Because if you go the other way, it's just going to sort of make it a bit harder. It's going to make it look a bit weird. So yeah, help yourself out by doing that. And try not to press too hard. You don't want to press too hard, otherwise you can rub it out, but it makes it harder to do that. Harder later on. All right. Cool, guys. So this takes a little while, just sort of working our way around with all the shading. Can stop whenever we break and give it a little smudgy. It's always quite good to do. How do you think it looks so far? You've got to be careful not to judge your picture when you're halfway through it, because it doesn't look great, you know, while you're doing it. Hopefully we can get it looking really good by the end, but you just got to kind of live with it while it's, you know, looking annoying. All right, so let's have a wee close-up look at the snout. And because this is the focus area, we're really wanting to like create some strong contrast. Okay, so contrast means light and dark beside each other. So light beside dark is a high contrast. So like up here, this light horn beside the background that's dark, nice high contrast. Something like these hills in the background, these are really low contrast because they sort of blend in together. So what we want to do here is we're going to have some really nice dark bits. So definitely in the nostril. Don't be afraid to make those bits really dark. And then as it comes out, the light sort of hits that nostril part and it starts to go a bit lighter. Okay, good. And then what else? Cool, underneath the mouth, there's a shadow here. So that's like, it could be like a darker fur maybe, or darker hair. Or it could just be the shadow because it's underneath the chin. Okay. All right, so then the mustache area, we've got this quite dark bit. So we're not really looking for the details at the moment. We're not trying to do like individual hairs or anything. We're just trying to get the shading, the tone. Oh, yep, cool. I think I've still probably got my snout a little bit big, but hey, it's all right, we're here now. Can't do it too perfect, can I? All right. Now, if you look at the actual snout part, it's really light along the top and on these two bits here, because that's where the light is hitting it as it comes down. But the bottom bit here is actually a little bit shaded. So get some shading on there and also around here. Give it a wee smudgy smudge. I'm just going to darken up the mouth too, because that's quite a nice dark bit in here. All right, now I can come back in with the rubber, pick up on some of those highlight areas. There we go. Yeah, that's starting to pop. That's looking good. Okay, cool, guys. Okay, so we've been going for half an hour. Whew. Man. Anyone getting a sore hand yet? Alright, so looking at some shading on here. Drawing muscles are just like any other muscles. The more you practice it, the longer you can do it for. Alright. Okay, so I think what we're going to do, we'll leave the rest of the body for now, because that's going to take quite a while to go through all the shading and stuff in here. And maybe that's something that I can do after we've done the sort of main job. And then, yeah, those people who want to do maybe a more advanced thing can watch the rest of that one. Cool? Okay, so now the fun bit. Now what we want to do is we want to create some of these lovely, like, you know, flowing locks on the cow's head. So we want to use the eraser for this. Now, if you've got a nice new eraser, you want to try and use a nice sharp point for this bit, okay? Because we want some fine lines. And how it works is make sure you've got like a nice gray in there. So give it a wee smudgy. You can tell I like saying that, huh? Okay, smudgy all over. Not too smudgy, just a little bit smudgy. And then try and pick up some of those flowing lines like that. Okay, so it's like a kind of a curve like that. Now your corners of your rubber aren't going to last very long. So you just have to try and do it like that. At this point, like, it doesn't really matter if you get each exact one right. It's just kind of the feeling of them curving down the head like that. Okay, and I'm flicking over to my other corner. And I'm going to get a couple of sharp ones in there. Little ones. A couple on the head here. On the ears, sorry. Oh, yeah, nice. All right, so then hopefully you'll have some kind of light bits there. All right. Now, at this stage, I'm going to go down to my 3B. No, my 3B. So this 3B is going to be a bit sharper. It's still quite a soft pencil, but it's quite a sharp pencil. Now, if you are just using a 6B, then what you can do is sharpen it. Let me show you how I do that, by the way. So on a tissue, so you don't get in trouble. Really carefully sharpen it like that. Kids, don't try this at home. You can use a pencil sharpener too if you want to, but you basically want to make sure that you've got a sharp pencil, however you do it, a sharp pencil for this next trick, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to draw some shadows on some of these hairs. So here's how we go. You ready for it? So we're going to go down the side like that. Okay, and then you're just going to shade those out a tiny bit. Just like that. Okay, so it starts to look quite detailed. Try not to sort of outline them like that, just some little fine lines. And what I'm doing is I'm actually turning my pencil around to make sure I've got the sharpest point on the edge. All right, this might be the point at which it starts to get a little bit hard. So sorry for some of you little kiddos if it's getting a bit hard for you. You can just draw some of these these hair bits on as well. So it doesn't have to be around the rubbed out bit. And actually, I should probably say, so we've done the tone, which is number 3. So now we're on to number 4. We're adding the texture. Okay, so the texture is like all the little things that make something look realistic. Okay, for example, in the grass, put these long, like grassy textures. Those are just like flicks like that. Some of them are like clumpy, so they sort of clump together. they're quite fast. So when you draw texture, it's usually pretty fast, repeating like a pattern that's repeating. You get it? The other main bit of texture that's quite cool is on the nose, and you guys can do this if you want to. There's lots of little dots on the nose. Cool? So you can just like dot it like that, or you can draw like little circles. And what that makes you do, try not to draw too many in the really light areas, just keep them to the darker areas. But you see how just adding in a little bit of texture now makes that snout look like quite realistic? You know, like before it was kind of a bit too smooth. But now it's got these kind of dots on it. Like if you've ever seen a cow's nose, snout, you can tell what it's like. It's just like that. Probably don't overdo it, but you know. So that's cool, you can do that. If we come back to the hair, so we're just like kind of drawing these few different like overlapping hairs. All right, you guys are doing so well. I'm really impressed with how many of you are still here. That's awesome. Hopefully you're having fun. At this stage, your highland cow should start to... sorry, I can't do a Scottish accent. Your highland cow should start to look a bit more realistic. And it'll start to kind of come together a little bit more. All right? All right. So as you can see on the reference, there's some little areas that are like kind of shaded. They're a little bit darker. So you can start to sort of add some of those bits in too. Get a few like little sharp hairy ones at the top. Cool. Yeah, that's starting to come together. Now just be careful when you're smudging not to smudge over the highlighted bits. Or you can add them in again, you know, you can add a few in as you go. But you want to try and keep those nice light bits if you can. Do you reckon it looks like a teenager's fringe? Maybe. I've got a 13-year-old. His fringe is pretty long, actually. All right, cool. All right. So you can keep spending quite a long time on doing that, but I don't want to spend too long. I don't want to lose the audience. So we're going to move on to doing the texture on the horns. So if we look really closely at the horns, you'll see there's some like kind of lines on them. And that's really interesting actually. There's like these sort of lines running down. Now I'm going to actually just give my, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down to my 2B pencil for this one. Okay, so, and it's nice and sharp too. So these lines are kind of like these like long lines like that. Now that you can only really see them in the shadows. And there might be some dots in there too. Dots and lines. But you just see, just by adding that in, how that kind of creates that texture feeling. Just like a little bit of detail. And it really helps the picture. Now I can use this 2B pencil to get a nice sharp contrast on that edge, that bottom edge as well. Something that the 6B can't really do because it's too soft. Cool. Yep, not bad. Probably could be a bit lighter on the end of that, couldn't it? Oh yeah, look at that. A little pop of highlight really works there. That's cool. All right, let's try and bring that down here a bit too. Nice. Cool. All right. All right, where else? So now I'm pretty happy with how the horns are looking. Cool. And so now I'm going to come down to work around a bit more around the face. So I'm going to be looking for some of these real details on here, okay? So let's work on the moustache. So I've still got my nice short 2B pencil, and I'm just doing some quite dark, there's some actual quite dark bits of hair here. Can you guys get those in? See how that dark, that sharp pencil just really pops with the contrast. Okay, and then what else? We've got some little hairs coming out from there. Coming out from here. Maybe just a little bit of a highlight on that bottom lip. Not too much actually, it's in shadow. Cool, and then get that little beardy going down there. Kind of easy to give it human traits, isn't it? All right, it's starting to look good though, guys. Cool. Okay, now one of the big things that I'm seeing when I look at this, I'm like, what's not working out? And that is that, see where the eyes are hidden back up in here? There's a lot of darker tone in there, okay? Or there's also all these little curly hairy bits like that, so. Good chance to get those with the 2B. Cool. And then I think I'll cruise back to the 3B, and I will start to work in some of those dark areas. So it's about here where it gets quite dark, just in here. And there's actually a kind of a highlight coming down by there, so I'm going to pick that up as well. Do you notice how all the fur kind of comes down like this? All right, so we're definitely starting to get into the more technical aspects, right? So if you're still following along, I'm really impressed. Well done. You're doing great. I wonder if for anyone this is the best drawing you've ever done. Maybe you could tell me in the comments. Cool, guys. Yep, so see how we've got some tone. Now I've got that little light bit coming through because we don't want to lose that. And then we don't want it to be a one-eyed Highland cow. So we've got to come over here. Try and keep that bit there. Yeah, nice. Cool. A little bit of smudging through there. What do you reckon? Is that starting to come together? I need like a tiny little rubber that I can do these hairs with, but don't have one. Sure you can get them. All right. Okay, so at this point, it's looking all right. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. Ooh, it's a bit darker up there, actually. Cool, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm kind of like, this looks good. Like right now, this looks good. I'm happy with it, but I want to try and improve it to make it even better, okay? So at this point, what I can do is I could just say, that's finished, that's done. I'm gonna put that in a frame and put it up on the wall in the lounge, yay. But if I want to try and make it even better, I can start to really look like quite closely at my reference photo and try and improve on what I've already got. Okay, so things like I call this micro looking, and basically it's like I'm gonna be like, okay, how does this ear work? And I'm like, okay, let's look at this ear really closely. There's like a light bit, like a line that comes up there, and then it's got bits that come off of there, and it's got some quite dark bits through here. Do you see what I mean? So it's starting to like, and it's got this little curve here that kind of goes into it. And I'm most likely use either a 3B or a 2B to do this job. And just looking, like micro looking, and just going through and trying to like improve the tiny little details. Now, for those of you who've done like drawing before, you probably know you could just spend hours and hours doing this. So you can just go and go and go and keep going, like so long, crazy amount of time. But you have to decide whether you want to invest that much time in this one drawing. Cool? It's good to be able to do that sometimes and just try and make it as good as you possibly can. But also you can just do it and then go, cool, it's done, and then maybe draw something else as well. So what I'm going to do now, I think I'm kind of happy with how it is now, without making it look amazing. I'm going to go over the body a little bit. So I'm going to add some, keep going on the tone. So I'm going to actually go back now to my 6B, back to number 3, and I'm going to start to just really add in some of those tonal differences in here. Okay, and then, yeah, we'll add the tone, and then I'll add the details, and then I might do a little bit more on the background as well. So if you want to just carry on and like keep working away with me, then that's totally cool. If you're like, nah, it's done, then that's fine too. Does anyone have a Highland cow or cows? Anyone that's watching? I feel like there are them in New Zealand, right? I mean, they're Scottish Highlands, but I'm sure there are some in New Zealand. You guys have to tell me where they're from, or if they're in New Zealand. So if you could see my head, you'd see me like looking back and forth between the reference photo a lot. So I'm sort of, yeah, constantly going back and forth. See, there's all these like flowing hairy bits. Dude, these guys are hairy as. I wonder if they get, you know, shorn like a sheep. Like Shaun the sheep. Shaun the Highland cow. What would he be called? Harry the Highland cow. Cool. Yeah, it's definitely like darker down here, isn't it? I don't like to go off the page because it annoys me, so I'll leave a little border. I guess then if you make a masterpiece, you can frame it up as well. It's always cool. All right, so now I'm gonna flip over. Actually, I'm gonna come back with my eraser and I'm gonna say, okay, there's some cool like highlights on that bit there. See that with the rubber? Oh man, that was good. And then I'm going to go here as well. Actually, I need to make my background a bit darker to make that pop out. Now, obviously I'm not going to be able to do all the individual hairs because the erase is too big. Now I'm going to go down to my 2B, the 2B. And I'm going to start to pick up on some of the texture. Cool. All right, we're coming up. We've been going about 50 minutes. Whoa, awesome effort, guys. Some of you must be getting sore hands from drawing too much. All right. Now, you can spend as long, like I was saying, you can spend as long as you want kind of working on this, maybe adding in more of the fur. I kind of get a bit bored, like just doing the same thing over and over, unless it's like on the face where it sort of feels like it's a bit more important. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that there. And I'm just going to come back over here and I'm just going to just do a little bit on the background. So what I want to do here, I'm just going to pick up a few of these little tree shapes here. So I don't want my background to look sort of just like rolling hills. So I've got some trees. And then I've got like a bit of land here, which is maybe a bit more contrasted. So it means, in my case, it means a bit darker. See the difference between the hills in the distance, which are quite faded. Oh, another train. And then there's actually a road there, which is sort of like, yeah, anyway. There's like the clods. And then up here it starts like with some grasses. And the main thing to think about here, guys, is whenever you're drawing a landscape, you need to make sure that the things in the distance are like more faded and smaller, okay? So if I drew like big as grass here and then the same size grass here, it just wouldn't make sense. So you've got to have like tiny little grasses here. As it comes forward, it might get a little bit medium sized like that. And then right at the front, bigger grasses. And that creates like a sense of depth in the picture. And it's one of those little tricks that you can use to make the picture look more realistic, more 3D. All right, so I'm getting my texture, but I'm going to come back with my 6B because you notice how some of these like grassy bits have like like some tone at the bottom. They're a little bit shaded. Yeah, nice. And yeah, I definitely don't want you guys to like do too much on the background because the focus is on the Highland cow. Okay, so we don't want the background like shining out and just looking amazing and then distracting. Got to keep it in its place in the background. So even that's like, I might even just rub that out a little bit because it's too bright. There we go, that's better. Cool. What else? Let's just get a few more little shadows here. Oh, we've got our little road, some kind of road situation. There we go. I'm gonna make the background a little bit darker here because it's gonna pop against the horns on the cow. I mean, dude, it's looking all right. I'm not unhappy with it. Okay, oh yep, so we've got our cloddy path going back here. This is going behind the head. Try and keep it consistent there. All right, I think we're nearly there, guys. Cool. I think I'm going to call it soon. So yeah. So and then the very, very last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my eraser. Now you're welcome to keep working on it, keep trying to add more detail if you want to, but I'm going to finish it and I'm going to add, just come back into these little highlights. So highlight on there, because they have a tendency to get kind of a little bit dirty while you're drawing. So try and pick out some of those highlights. Yeah, that's looking good. It's really popped that out a bit more. Tiny bit there. Awesome. Probably could do with just a bit more definition in the body to help to stand it out from the background. Same with hair. There we go. That's cool. Awesome, guys. Cool. So there we are. That's the end of our drawing tutorial for today. Cool. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed making it for you. And just given the great response from people, and yeah, obviously this is hitting the right tone with something for kids to do and be creative at home. I'm going to run a second class on Thursday at 3:30 p.m, so 2 days from now. And we are going to be drawing the P Waka Waka. And I will show you what that's looking like. We're going to be drawing this cute little guy. So yeah, I'm going to be going over a lot of the same stuff, practicing how to do the tone, practicing how to do all the beautiful little details, the texture in the wood, the nice soft background. Yeah, so hopefully you'll want to join me again in a couple of days. But yeah, if you are brave enough, take a photo of your drawing and post it in the comments. It'd be really cool to see some of your work. And yeah, give me your feedback. And also give me some ideas for future drawings if you want to. And yeah, hope you guys have a really creative couple of days, and I'll see you in a couple of days. Cheers!